Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
By the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Sarah, and I hope you had a wonderful weekend, that your week has started off well. We are going to talk today about hydration, which is important all of the time, but since it's summer and it's hotter, at least for most people, it's really important to stay hydrated. Here in Northern California this week, it's looking like we're going to be in triple digits all week if the forecast is right, and I'm kind of hoping it isn't. But I can't complain too much because we're normally triple digits much sooner than this, and we've had a fairly decent summer, so I probably shouldn't complain. But you know what? I'm going to, because when I look on my weather app and I see anything above 99, 99's still hot enough, thank you. But anything above 99, I'm like, ugh, no, please. I don't want triple digits. So, at any rate, how are you with staying hydrated? This is actually one of the things that I'm normally pretty good at. I drink a lot of water during the day. But as I said, during the summer, you need to be a little more aware of it, especially if you are doing anything that gets you out into the heat more. So, of course, staying hydrated, the first tip is to drink water and to drink lots of it. Drinking water, of course, remains the number one way to stay hydrated during the summer, during the heat. So be sure to drink more water than you usually do. Maybe schedule regular water breaks during the day. There's all kinds of things that can help you do this if you have trouble drinking water on a regular basis, and I know some people do. You can, sometimes I will set a timer on my phone so that goes off every hour. I do this especially in the morning when I'm drinking my morning coffee, because when I'm drinking my morning coffee, I don't often remember to drink water. So maybe it's overkill, but I set my timer for an hour, and once every hour I drink water along with my coffee. I know that there are water apps that remind you every so often to drink water. I've not used them myself, but I know other people who have. So I'm not 100% sure how often they remind you, or whether you can set that interval. I would imagine that you can probably, like most apps, set your own I was going to say boundaries, parameters for how much water you want to drink, how often you need to drink in order to meet those expectations, etc. So yeah, there's lots of different ways to remind yourself to drink more water. Another thing to remember when it is summer and it is hot is to be aware of how much you are sweating. If you are at work all day in the air conditioning, you might not be sweating that much. You might be fine. But if you work outside, or if you're working out outside, or even if you work out inside with air conditioning, it can be very hard to air condition spaces, big spaces, especially like gyms, when it is this hot outside. So be aware of how much you sweat. Of course, sweat is the way your body cools itself. It's the evaporation of that sweat helps to cool you when you are hot. But the more you sweat, the more fluids you'll need to replenish yourself after sweating. It's not unusual for athletes running football drills to lose 5 pounds or more of sweat during practice. So keep that in mind. Obviously, not all of us are outside during the summer wearing football pads and doing drills, but a lot of us are doing other things that are making us warmer than we might normally be. Especially if you are outside, if you work outside, even if your job doesn't require you to work outside, we still are outside doing yard work or enjoying a day, whatever, what have you. You need to be aware of the temperature and how much you are sweating and how much you are drinking to replenish what you are sweating off. Well, it may sound great. Hey, you can lose 5 pounds during a football drill. That's not the best way to go about it. Just look at like MMA fighters and how when they dehydrate down, it can be life threatening sometimes. So not the best way. No, I'm not recommending that. So no, be aware of how much you sweat and make sure you are drinking enough water to replenish the fluids you lose through sweat. Another thing to keep in mind during the heat of the summer is to know how much water you personally need. Now there's all those guidelines out there, drink 8-ounce glasses of water a day. That might be great, or it might not be enough for you, or it might be too much for you. For instance, the elderly and those who have diabetes or heart disease might need more water to remain hydrated than some other people. If you have certain health conditions, be sure to speak with your doctor about any special precautions that you should take to avoid dehydration. Know how much water you personally need to drink. And, well, how do you know if you're drinking enough? Well, sounds weird, but check your urine. I have a friend whose mom is a nurse, and her mom always says, drink until your pee's clear. Well, yes, your urine, the color of your urine is actually a key indicator of how much water you are drinking and how much water you need. If your urine is darker, that is a warning sign that you are dehydrated. Urine should be pale yellow and clear. If it's darker, you could be dehydrated. It depends on, the color of it. If it's darker because of some other reason, you're definitely going to want to make sure you know the color of your urine and what color it should be. And if it's, red or something, you see a doctor. But if it's pale or clear, you are drinking enough. If it is not pale yellow, but even like the color of lemonade or darker, drink more water. Drink until your pee is clear. Sounds crazy, sounds a little icky, but yes, look at your pee. Look at your urine on a regular basis and make sure you are drinking enough. What else are some tips to maintain your hydration? Well, this is an unpopular one, but avoid alcohol. I know it's summer and we want to hang out and have barbecues and do all sorts of things that we are, people like to drink during those kinds of events. But, a cold beer, one cold beer might be tempting on a hot summer day and it might cool you down. Alcohol can actually cause you to become more dehydrated. And so if you are drinking during a heat wave, you need to do so in moderation. I'm not saying don't do it at all, but don't, have one beer. Don't have 2 or 10 beers because that is going to make you be more dehydrated. If you are going to drink more than one, make sure that you apply the math of 1 glass of water to 1 alcoholic drink. And I'm not talking about like 1 sip of water, not 1 shot glass of water. No, drink a good size amount of water to every alcoholic drink you consume. That will help you to stay hydrated, but the best plan is to just not drink too much when it is hot to avoid dehydration. What about caffeine? That's often a question that people have. Can I still drink caffeine and be hydrated? Well, for years, people have been warned about the dehydrating effects of caffeine. It is a diuretic, which that just means it causes you to go to the bathroom more often. And the concern has been that drinking sodas, coffee, and other caffeinated beverages would have a detrimental effect on your hydration. But according to studies done by the University of Connecticut, that's not necessarily the case. Research has shown that the body does retain some of the hydrating fluids in caffeinated drinks. So, while caffeine is not necessarily taboo in terms of staying hydrated, it does not have the same hydrating benefits of water. So if you say, well, yes, but I drank a liter of soda yesterday, I'm hydrated. You're not retaining as much water or as much fluid if you had drunk the same amount of water as you drank of soda. Also, soda can have does have a ton of sugar in it. So that's going to cause different kinds of health problems. Even the diet drinks that don't have sugar in them, they say they're 0 calories. They still have artificial sweeteners in them and all kinds of chemicals. And yes, they taste yummy, but it's just better to drink water. I'm not saying don't have your caffeinated beverage. Like I said, I drink coffee in the morning. Sometimes it's caffeinated, sometimes it's decaf, depending on what place I am in life. But I also try to make sure that I'm drinking water in addition to the coffee, just to make sure I'm staying hydrated. So we are going to take our first break of the podcast, and when we come back, we'll be talking more about hydration and some tips for staying hydrated. Stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, and I'll be right back.
Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. We are talking about hydration today, and before the break we were talking about caffeine and alcohol. Do in moderation. Make sure you drink plenty of water along with the alcohol. Caffeine is okay, also in moderation. Basically, you're just trying to be hydrated in a healthy kind of way. So next tip for staying hydrated during the summer is to adjust your exercise. Exercise is, of course, an important component of our physical health, and we shouldn't abandon it when the temperature rises, although that is so tempting because it's really, really hot. Even if you go outside to walk or run, it can be very hot, especially even in the morning. The gym in the summertime can be hot, but it just depends on your gym. There are some precautions, though, that you can take that will help you to avoid dehydration when you work out during the summer. Exercise, of course, during the cooler parts of the day, or exercise indoors. Ease into your exercise program and pace yourself, particularly if there is a heat wave. Speak to your doctor if you plan on doing extensive exercise outdoors. If you are a swimmer, that would be great during the summer because it's a good cooler way to exercise. Water aerobics would be another one. Take cool baths or showers to cool down. Although sitting in a cool bath does not hydrate you, it does keep you from sweating as much, which then in turn keeps you from losing fluid. So if you're a fan of the super hot shower, well, maybe adjust that during the summer. Many people prefer to take cooler showers in the hotter months because for me personally, it bumps up my internal temperature, and I'm just even hotter than I was before I got in the shower. There's that initial stepping out when you've taken a hot shower and you feel cooler. But if you don't have to take a cold shower or anything, just bump your temperature down, and that will help you to preserve some of your fluid levels, not sweat them all out in the shower, as delightful as that might sound to you. Number 9 is eat foods that have a high water content. Certain foods are ideal for this, of course. Eating them helps you to avoid some of the additives that are frequently found in juice drinks. So on average, an apple is 84% water, while cantaloupes and peaches both contain 89% water. This does not apply to dried fruit. Watermelon also is one that has a lot of water. I think grapes are on that list. There's a lot of food that you can eat. And fruits, if you're craving sugar, fruits are a better option anyway because it's not refined sugar, it's natural sugar, and you're eating fresh fruit rather than refined or processed food. So you are not only maintaining better nutrition levels, but you're also hydrating by eating fruits that have high water content. Finally, sports drinks. Yes, there are times when sports drinks can help you to replace nutrients and fluids that you've lost during exercise. While they do help with hydration, water still remains the best choice. If you do use sports drinks, check the label to be sure you're not getting excessive amounts of sugar or additives. Your doctor or a certified exercise specialist may be able to help you. Sports drinks can, if you have been working out hard and you have lost a lot of electrolytes, then sports drinks can be okay. But like the tip said, definitely check your labels. See what's in there, see how much sugar, see how many carbs, see how much sodium even is in your sports drink, because you may be putting a lot more in your body that you don't want. Actually, one recommendation is, so anytime you exercise in extreme heat for more than 1 hour, you should supplement water with a sports drink that contains electrolytes and 6% to 8% carbohydrates. This prevents hyponatremia, which is low blood sodium, which dilutes your blood and could also lead to serious impairment and even death. So, yeah, you definitely want to check your labels. You definitely want to know, don't just choose a sports drink because you think it might be a good idea. Make sure you know what you're putting into your body. Also, when you are exercising at any time, but especially in the heat, make sure that you are well hydrated before you begin to exercise, because that is you're going to go in ahead of the game. In other words, you are if you go in and you're already dehydrated, you're just going to make things worse when you work out, especially really hard and in the heat. If you are wondering just how much water you should drink, depending on how much you exercise, one example or one way to do that is, to determine your individualized need for fluid replacement during heavy exercise, weigh yourself immediately before and after exercise. If you see an immediate loss of weight, you've lost valuable water. Drink 3 cups of fluid for every pound lost. Use this figure to determine the amount of water or sports drinks you'll need to drink before and during your exercise session to prevent weight and water loss in the future. So that's a good guideline to make sure that you are drinking the appropriate amount of water. Remember, weigh yourself before and after, and then 3 cups of water before for each pound lost. It's 24 ounces of water for each pound lost, which is a really good guideline to remember. Okay, so at this point you might be thinking, yeah, I know I'm supposed to stay hydrated and I'm supposed to drink water, but really, why? Well, let's look at some of the science behind why water is so important. Of course, nutrients come in the forms of different foods, but water is actually the most important and often forgotten nutrient. You can last for some time without food, but only days without water. If you've ever watched that show, Naked and Afraid, they do fine really for days without food. Not fine, I mean, they're having issues, but they start feeling the effects of no water usually within the first day or two. So it's really important. Your lean body mass contains about 70% to 75% water, with fat containing much less, about 10% to 40% water. Because of increased muscle mass, men's and athletes' bodies contain more water than bodies with proportionately lower muscle and higher fat. Such as non-athletic women, people who are overweight, and people who are older. So that's disheartening. As though, weight gain wasn't frustrating enough for so many different reasons, both emotionally and physically and overall health-wise. Now you have to worry that you are less hydrated the more weight you might gain. So just another reason to focus on healthy eating, focus on healthy exercising, and maintaining your hydration by maintaining a healthy weight. We're going to talk a little bit more about hydration when we come back as we wrap up this episode episode, so stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, and I'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. We are speaking today, of course, about hydration, and we are talking about why it is so important to drink water, what water does with your body. So, piggybacking off what I was talking about before the break in terms of the water in your body, water is the solvent for important biochemical reactions, supplying nutrients and removing waste. It is essential in maintaining blood circulation throughout your body. It is the maintainer of body temperature. As you exercise, your metabolism and your internal body temperature increase. Water carries heat away from your internal organs before serious damage occurs, which can lead to heat stroke and even death. The heat travels through your bloodstream to your skin, causing you to sweat. As the sweat evaporates, this allows you to cool off and maintain a safe body temperature, optimal functioning, and health. Daily water intake must be balanced with losses to maintain total body water. Losing body water can adversely affect your functioning and health. Once you start feeling thirsty, you've probably lost about 1% of your body water and are dehydrated. With a 2% body water loss, you could experience serious fatigue and cardiovascular impairments. It's important to note that individual fluid needs differ depending on your sweat rate, the environmental temperature, your clothing, humidity, and other factors. So that is just a few of the reasons why it is so very important to drink water, especially because it is it's just so important to your overall health, even not during the summer months. It's important all the time. Okay, so we've talked about the importance of staying hydrated and some of the tips to maintain hydration. How do you know that you're dehydrated, though, is a question. We have talked a little bit about some of those things. You know, obviously checking the color of your urine is a big one. So, recognizing the signs of dehydration is important. Some of those signs include little to no urine, urine that is darker than usual, dry mouth, sleeplessness or fatigue, extreme thirst, headache, confusion, dizziness or lightheadedness, no tears when crying. So those are some things to consider if you're wondering whether or not you are dehydrated. Of course, you shouldn't wait until you notice the symptoms of dehydration to take action. You should actively prevent dehydration by drinking plenty of water. Some people are, in fact, at higher risk of dehydration, including people who exercise at a high intensity or in hot weather, which is what we've been talking about for too long. Those who have certain medical conditions such as kidney stones, bladder infections, those who are sick, fever, vomiting, diarrhea can definitely make you much more dehydrated. Women who are pregnant or breastfeeding need to stay more hydrated. People who are trying to lose weight or who are not able to get enough fluids during the day. Older adults are also at higher risk. As you get older, your brain may not be able to sense dehydration. It doesn't send signals for thirst. And I just saw something today. I need to look into it more, but This is definitely a problem with patients with dementia. They do not remember to drink, or they don't recognize the signs of being thirsty. So they just don't drink as much, and they are dehydrated, which then causes all kinds of, more complications in addition to the health problems they may be already having. Then now they're dehydrated. So, as we've said, water makes up more than half of your body weight, and you lose water every day when you go to the bathroom, when you sweat, even when you breathe, you lose water. That's crazy. You lose water even faster, of course, when it's hot like it is during the summer, or depending on where you live, you lose water more faster when you are more physically active, or if you have a fever. As I said earlier, vomiting and diarrhea can also lead to rapid water loss. If you don't replace the water you lose, you can, of course, become dehydrated. So if you feel like maybe you aren't getting the hydration you need and you want to talk to your doctor about this, there are some good questions to ask your doctor. For instance, I don't like water. I hear this all the time from people. What's the next best thing to keep me hydrated? Ask your doctor that question. My husband, for instance, can only drink, as I said, certain types of water. I know people who just hate the taste of plain water. One of the tips, of course, is adding like lemon or lime to your water. I'm sort of the opposite of everybody I know, because I hate lemon in my water. I prefer plain water. I'm one of the strange people in the world who can happily drink water. But another alternative that we drink in our family is Crystal Light, but it's really, really watered down. We try to stay pretty low carb in our family and avoid a lot of sugar. So full strength, I guess you would say, Crystal Light is, it's so sweet. So we water it way down, which is more cost effective. So, one of the big packs that you're supposed to make like 2 quarts, I think, out of that. I usually make more than triple the water required for that. So it's really watered down. And actually, in my Crystal Light, I can sometimes put in a lemon, which it's different. I don't like lemon in my water. But back to questions to ask your doctor. What if I can't consume as many fluids as doctors recommend? Your doctor can help you work out a plan. What does it mean if I drink a lot of fluids but don't urinate often? That is a very good question to ask your doctor. If you feel like you're drinking a ton of water or a ton of fluids, but you don't seem to be going to the bathroom as much as you feel like you should. I feel like I go to the bathroom every 5 minutes, but that's just me. Then you should definitely talk to your doctor about that. And of course, then how does drinking alcohol affect hydration is another good question. If you are someone who likes to have a drink every now and then, and we did talk a little bit about that earlier in the podcast, that drinking alcohol can definitely not help that it's not really conducive to staying hydrated. So, and if you do decide to drink, especially in the heat, make sure you are balancing your alcohol intake with plenty of water intake. So hopefully this gave you some things to think about in terms of hydration. If you are having trouble staying hydrated during the summer, there's definitely plenty of articles out there to go and read, and maybe you'll find something that just clicks and makes sense. If you're going to try to replace some of your fluids with fruits and vegetables, just watch your sugar content. It's natural sugar, yes, but you want to watch your sugar content, your carbs, etc., all of those things. Nutrition all works together, so you want to make sure that you're maintaining a healthy balance of all of those nutrients and still getting in the water. Experiment. Figure out what works for you in order to stay hydrated. Try not to drink too much caffeine. A little bit is fine, but too much, of course, can make you jittery, and it can make you urinate more if you drink a ton of coffee. So that might be counterproductive in terms of hydrating, but it's not forbidden in terms of hydration. You just, as with everything, moderation is key. So that is our episode on hydration. I am the weirdo who is constantly telling people to stay hydrated. I just told my neighbor to stay hydrated yesterday. It's kind of my way of saying, take care of yourself, see you later. Stay hydrated. I even tell my dogs. I encourage my dogs when they are drinking, especially during the summer. I don't get out much. So I encourage everyone to stay hydrated, and I encourage you to stay hydrated as well. Oh, one last tip. I find I drink more water if I use a straw rather than just drinking it. This may not work for everybody, but I definitely drink more water and more consistently if I drink through a straw. That can, cause some gas issues, depending on how fast you drink. You may be burping more than usual, but it does help me to maintain my hydration levels. So on that note, thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. Please join me again next time when we'll be talking more about health and wellness and, burping and hydration and whatever else comes to mind. So have a great week and stay hydrated, folks.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.